Welcome to this interview series. My name is Christina Theodoraki. I'm editor of Small Business Economics and Entrepreneurship Journal. And I have the great honor to interview today Niels Rietveld from Erasmus University Rotterdam and Elco van Burg from Vrei, Amsterdam. Welcome, Niels. Welcome, Elco. I'm very glad that you participate in this special interview series and you accept to share your knowledge with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
So I was talking that this interview is quite special. It is an innovation also for this interview series because this is an interview of a special issue. So today we're going to talk about the editorial paper, but also not only the editorial paper. We're going to stress the importance of the whole special issue. So the editorial is named Coupling Engagement with Analytical Rigor, Advancing Research on Religion and Entrepreneurship using a mechanism-based approach. This editorial and this special issue was finally published in Small Business Economics in November 2023. And this editorial paper and special issue is co-authored with Marcus Dejardin from University Namur and Université Catholique de Louvain, Brigitte Hoogendoorn from Erasmus University of Rotterdam, and Janssen from Universiteit Catholique de Louvain. We have today a representation of this special issue, but of course, the other guest editors of the special issue, they are with us with spirit and gave also their consent to and the responsibility to our representatives today to talk about the special issue. So we'll start my first question. Could you please tell us what is the special issue about?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Niels.
The special issue is about the relationship between religion on the one hand and entrepreneurship on the other hand. And it's motivated by the fact that we see that the religion is very important in the lives of many around the globe. But we didn't see it so much being addressed and discussed in the entrepreneurship literature. So that made us to propose a special issue on this theme to the editors of Small Business Economics. So it's about religion and entrepreneurship, but also the relationship the other way around, from entrepreneurship to religion. And that's the topic. It's a lot, but it's fascinating.
Can you tell me why this special issue is important and what are the new information that this special issue gives us and what we can learn from this special issue and the whole papers you have published that we didn't know before?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in general, what we know is that, well, of course, religion influences a lot of behavior. So we know that it influences how people behave, what they think, what the norms and values are. So that's the basic assumption. It's already an old assumption. And famously, Max Weber already presented with his thesis that, well, Protestantism has an influence on capitalism. That's well known and it's already been demonstrated over and over again that there's indeed a link. At the same time, we don't see a lot of work going beyond that, really going into, let's say, more nuances of, okay, what aspects of religion then have an influence and what part of entrepreneurship do they, for instance, influence. So what we did and put down in the introduction of the special issue, in the introductory article, is that we try to disentangle those different aspects. And we say, we propose four sets of, well, four mechanisms basically that specify that. One is believing. So that's the first one, saying, okay, religion comes of course with a set of beliefs, and that has influence on what type of opportunities people, for instance, want to pursue. It also has an effect of bonding, meaning that religion is typically tied to a community. So if people are engaging in a religious community, they have already a set of customers, maybe a set of relationships, they have a stronger network to build upon. The third one is the behaving aspect. That's what Max Weber presented. Well, people behave differently because they have different norms and values. And then there's a belonging aspect that has means, well, if you tie to a community, it helps you to build up your venture in a certain way. So we say, well, these four mechanisms, they help people to be entrepreneurial in a certain way, but they also the other way around. Also, entrepreneurship influences religion, and what we try to explain in the introductory articles, there's several areas that are rather unexplored, and especially also the link from entrepreneurship back to religion is not so much explored. And we're very happy also to have one article in the special issue that actually describes how entrepreneurial thinking in Church of England influenced how the Church of England looks nowadays, and how it also changed some practices inside the church. And that's well, entrepreneurship is everywhere around the globe, but often sometimes we restrict it to ventures, but actually it's much bigger than that.
And it's not without reason that we propose these mechanisms as a way forward, because there have been, of course, quite many papers on the topic, religion and entrepreneurship, but these are usually correlational in nature. So showing, well, this correlates with that. So, for instance, that countries where Protestantism is more prevalent, you'll see higher entrepreneurship rates, for instance. But what is actually driving this relationship? That was very much unknown, and therefore you have to dig into the mechanism. So what makes it that X is associated with Y? And we believe that we put forward a framework, which Elco just described, with the 4 dimensions that can help to disentangle this relationship, the relation from religion to entrepreneurship on the one hand, and from entrepreneurship back to religion.
Thank you very much for providing these insights. And actually, let me ask a difficult question, because this special issue is quite audacious. Who know that all these topics, they are there in the society until the very beginning. And we're talking about religion, companies, people are always there, but religion, it's a topic that needs a lot of courage also to touch, but also to link to entrepreneurship. And we see some of these papers, for example, David Doherty was publishing Democracy and Entrepreneurship. So we see some of these topics that need a lot of courage actually to show the links. And as Niels was talking about, we have seen some of these papers making or assuming a link between religion and entrepreneurship. But as you say, there was some papers around the literature. However, what motivated this special issue? Because you put the focus with this special issue to religion and entrepreneurship. You want to stress how important it is to make this link. So what motivated this special issue, and where this idea came from? Can you share with us what was the eureka moment that you said, now we're going to build a special issue, a special thematic section on this topic?
You have been involved more in this setup, Niels, so probably you can answer that one.
Yeah, well, the initial idea for this special issue came from Frank. He's not with us today in this call, so he should have been the one addressing this question. But I think that all the editors of the special issue have been involved before in some studies on this topic. But they also experienced that it was not so easy to publish these type of studies. And that's why we thought, okay, perhaps we should just try to make a special issue to really, put this team into the spotlight. And that's how we went about it. And it's actually quite cool that we received many submissions, close to 100. So that also makes us believe that people are super interested in the topic. So there's clearly a market for this type of work.
Yeah, maybe also relevant to notice that there's quite some work, of course, on religious studies, etc., that actually link topics to religion. Sometimes they have different methods than we have, and sometimes, we could say it's more descriptive rather than explanatory. And So it's a bit of, so we want to put forward, let's say, a solid, rigorous special issue where we present really good work on linking entrepreneurship and religion, also as a foundation for future research. So that's also why we have to be very critical also on selecting good articles. So it's not too difficult to make, let's say, a 20 article volume of work on this, but really being critical on the methods being used and not just repeating what others have said. Let's say, and the studies that put forward correlation between entrepreneurship and religion without explaining why there's a relationship. That's the type of studies that we try to avoid, because that has been shown over and over again. But we want to move just a step further and saying, okay, why is there a relationship, and can we specify that relationship?
Thank you for describing the beginning of this idea of the special issue, but also the criteria and the condition you have been using in order to ensuring the research behind was rigorously undertaken, that actually contribute to the research discussion. And actually, my next question would be the future of this special issue. So where do you see that this research or this topic is going forward? What new research you want to see continue to progressing? Actually, what was the contribution of the special issue, and what how many avenues it opened, and where do you want to see probably to see some research that could fill some gaps that the special issue could not fulfill?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we present those 4 mechanisms, and on all those 4 mechanisms, we identified new questions. Some areas have been explored quite a bit. Let's say the social capital one, networks, has been explored quite well. But let's say the thing on believing, for instance. So we know, well, if you're religious, people believe, let's say, in transcendental knowledge or something. You get something, you get a calling, you get to do something. So what does it mean for being an entrepreneur? Those are questions that have not been studied so far, but we know they are influential. And also, as I said before, also the question from the other side, let's say how entrepreneurship influences religion. That's mostly an open question, I think. So there's lots of interesting questions to be studied there, especially as it also looks like entrepreneurship is becoming much more, let's say, one of the mainstream, how do you say, more, it's much more mainstream than it used to be, let's say, I think 50 years ago, to be self-employed or to be entrepreneurial or to have a career that takes a shift at a certain point that you undertake something new. We don't have those people. Well, we probably have a few of them that stick with doing the same thing for 40 years during their career, but often people change, and that has an influence on also how they see their religious organizations and maybe start new ones or change even the beliefs inside those communities.
Now, what we also do in our introduction is that we have included a table that's based on the mechanisms that we propose with interesting research questions that can be explored further. And what we also noticed in the submissions, but also in the literature more broadly, is that oftentimes, say, the positive aspects or factors of religion and entrepreneurship are explored, whereas there are also dark sides of, for instance, belonging to a religious community. For instance, it may hinder the opportunities you see or you're gonna explore. Also, dark sides of being super engaged in your work. Perhaps that has negative bearing on your religious involvement, for instance. And that's also an area that we highlight that can be explored further. So, say, the dark sides in the relationships between religion and entrepreneurship.
It is extremely interesting to identify also from the one side the bright side and the dark side, to make also a critical overview about the impact of the religion in entrepreneurship. But actually, I had a question I was reflecting. Probably this is not related to the special issue, but when we talk about religion, you can see that in some places religion is different. We don't have, you talk about religion like as a concept or an umbrella concept, but what we put behind religion, it's differently perceived by different countries or different population or different ages also. So I was wondering also how the intensity probably of religion or whether we are fully religious or engaged could also may have an impact. It was just a reflection I was doing while I was listening to you. I don't know how do you see, if you have probably any comparisons between different countries that have different religion and probably have different impacts on entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's actually part of this framework that we propose. It comes from Saraklu and colleagues that if you think about religion, you can distinguish these 4 dimensions. For instance, you can formally belong to a religion, but you cannot believe what this religion is about. So it can be congruent, but it can also be incongruent. So you need to be aware of that. And of course, in the special issue, if eventually that was not on purpose, but these studies are all focused on Christianity, whereas in the initial submissions, we also saw submissions about Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. These were unfortunately not included in the final special issue. But certainly that's an area to explore further.
Yeah, also one of the articles actually has a comparison of, let's say, Lutheran and Catholic part. So this is actually branch of Christianity, of course, but then comparing them, and you already see differences, and that's a well-known difference in behavior and entrepreneurialism. But of course, it would be interesting to see that across religions, also across regions, as I think also, let's say, Christianity in the US is different from Christianity in Africa, of course. So it's and then Christianity is not just one branch; you have multiple types, etc. So it's there's lots of variation there. But I think the interesting thing is for the theme is that you always see an effect of religion. Well, of course, it depends a bit on how religious people are, but overall, there's quite consistently an effect. So, and that's something to explore further. So, as this is an explanatory factor that we often forget to take into account. So, if you see studies, we often take into account as variables, of course, age and education. Those are very well-known variables. But we also know from a lot of those large-scale studies that religion always has an effect, basically.
Thank you very much for sharing all these insights for the special issue. Do you have any last comments or any advices for the readers of the special issue? How do you want them to read and perceive the papers of the special issue? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I think given that this is such a interesting domain and we don't see a lot of, let's say, real regular studies in it, I would just invite people to take a couple of those questions that we explore or get inspired by the papers in the special issue and see what they can do to move this further. I really believe this is kind of an emerging domain where we still need a lot of knowledge to understand how religion influences entrepreneurship and the other way around.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Just take the time to read through the whole special issue. I think we have fascinating studies, and we provide some some directions for further research. And we actually look forward to more studies on the topic.
Excellent. And with that, I would like also to join our readers and listeners and encourage them to download your paper which is available from the Springers website. Your paper is in open access, so they can download it and read more from this editorial article. But also I have conducted another interview with another paper of the special issue with Jessica Jones, which is also she contributed in this special issue, providing the link of religion and angels and the impact of entrepreneurial investors' decision making. So actually readers can see and read from the one side the articles, but also get more insight from the authors of the special issue through these interviews that are available through the YouTube channel of Small Business Economics. I would like to thank you both for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.